Thank you, Raphael, to get a good insight how to hunt the bad. And now we will go to the panel. We have some questions to the panelists, and then we can go to your questions, what you have to the specialists, how to hunt the bad ones. Thanks a lot, Raphael, and I welcome now the three panelists who gave already a presentation. It's Karl Zettel from ICNIO, it's Swier from Crystal Intelligence, and Raphael Straß from Bundeskanzleramt. Bundeskriminalamt, sorry. So, I introduce myself a little bit. My name is Georg Ranzinger. I'm working on white collar crime. We are also making a software to hunt the bad ones. And today we're going not only to talk about code and compliance, we will also go into the minds of the hunted and the hunters. The hunter we have here. We have two solution providers who will help to show up where is all this stolen money. First, I have a question to you, Sweet. You're the master tracker from Crystal Intelligence. So when a crypto fortune vanishes, you're the first one coming to the crime scene. How do you see that?
Yeah, I'm usually the first line of defense because people come to me eventually and say that there's been a hack or the funds are stolen. And the process is relatively simple from our side, but the one person who cannot return the money to victims. We facilitate the labeling within the industry. So more companies and people know that those addresses are belonging to criminals.
So we stay now with the solution providers. Karl, you're a founder. You saw a problem and you built a company to solve this issue. Was there a specific moment where you think, I have seen here the crime flaws, I have to provide a solution, so I have to build a tool myself?
So to be quite honest, I'm not the founder, yes, but I was coming in later on, so it was already established by the 4 scientists of several EU projects. So it just got me tracked somehow because we always try to find any kind of reasoning, right, and just to support, to make this kind of new technology better usable also for the mass, put more security in. That's how it just got me called somehow, but the initial thoughts came from the 4 scientists before that, so I was just jumping in at that time.
So now we come to the digital detective. Raphael, you're on the front lines. So when a victim's life savings seem to disappear on the blockchain, you're the one to call. So, what was the dumbest mistake a criminal can do you have ever seen?
That's a good question. Well, we have seen this case. The criminal tried to hide behind Tor networks and VPNs, but it's very different to make this all the time. So, because criminals also have a private life, right? So they keep on the VPNs, they switch it on, but sometimes they forget to switch it off, or when they do criminal attempts, they forget to switch it off. And so we are looking for these little pieces of luck, but of course we have to find it and we have to make most of it. It's sometimes very time-consuming because you have to review every single piece of evidence and every piece of information. But sometimes you got lucky and you find a piece of evidence. Just one case. The criminal, he received, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, and he received it in his Wasabi wallet. Wasabi is, Wasabi wallet, which had a mixing function built in. But I think since 1 year, you have to choose an operator, and the wallet doesn't mix the funds automatically. And so he forgot to mix the funds, but he thought that he mixed the funds, and so we were able to follow the funds right away, which was very easy for us. Yeah, and we recognized Wasabi wallet due to its pattern on chain, to the address pattern we see.
I also have one. So we have been also wired through many investigations. And it turns out that from time to time they also get some house stress, right? And it turns out there were hackers, and they used a specific phone to communicate with the victims, but just to communicate with the victims and no way to find out what it was. And then all of a sudden they got hungry at 3 a.m. in the morning and were calling the pizza service with that kind of a phone. And then they were able to catch them at that point of time.
That's cool. So how many of you ever got a message which was a little bit too friendly from a number you didn't know? Who want to steal your money at the end? And yeah, so this is always the opening move in a global hunt for your money. Yesterday I've seen the movie Beekeeper, so this is very similar to it. Let's talk about pickpocketering, which is very common in the Asian world. It's coming now also to Europe. It sounds strange, but it's devastating. Raphael, can you walk us through how a criminal uses a wrong number to send you a text to steal millions from our accounts?
So you mean the modus operandi, the process of them? Yeah, so very often the whole modus operandi starts with WhatsApp message. So you look on your phone and you receive a message. Sometimes it's hi, how are you? Sometimes it's a job offer. It depends really on the individual case. And so you're starting to build a relationship with the sender of this message, and you build trust, you build a relationship, and then sometimes, or then at a certain point, the messengers try to convince you that you need to invest money. So you can invest money, they promise you huge profits. And well, I think most victims tried in the beginning. They made a very little test amount deposit, and yeah, when they see on a manipulated platform that the returns grows, and they think, okay, wow, it's huge, it's something here. I found something. I'm the lucky one. Then they convince you to invest more and more money into the scam. And as you mentioned earlier, I think it was part of your presentation, when the victim realized that they can't withdraw the funds, the criminals try to squeeze you, you mentioned earlier, and then suddenly the communication stopped, the website is down, and you have no possibility or no contact to the criminals. I think that's it. Do you want to add something?
I just want to say is they try to catch you in emotional situations, right? So if you get divorced somehow and then they try to look like a divorce as well, everything is shit, and we just, we have to something to invest. So I think the biggest point here is to try to capture the emotions, and that's where most of the people then get into it. But,
yeah, that doesn't end there. People also they share the information about the victims with other compounds. So we had the review into a compound. We even have the workbooks, so to say to people how to operate, what should be the next message. It's literally a very big operation, how to scan people. The only thing I don't like personally, the name for the butchering, because those are victims, right? And then you give them a name which doesn't, it's shameful to be scammed on money, right? And then you go in and say, people should be. So I'd rather use financial shooting.
And do you also have clients who got a victim of love scams?
Yeah, quite a lot. So we see this modus operandi is still, I think it started, I don't know exactly when, but years ago, and it's still exploding. So every single day we hear from new victims. So it's still exploding, and it's still a very famous crime.
So the victims, they often have fear to use help. Which recommendation can you give that if you're a victim of any scam, what to do next?
In my opinion, it's very important to file a report, as I mentioned earlier, because only if the police knows that this incident happened, they can do something. And I know it's embarrassing and it's very, very bad for the victims, but it's just maybe half an hour at a police station. They need to bring the transaction data, they need to make a very short interview with the police officer at a station, and that's it. So keep that in mind. It's just about 30 minutes interview with a police officer, and then I think most of the work, so that we can receive a message if it was successfully or if the case continues. So the only personal interaction with the police is just, I don't know, I guess around 30 minutes in order to fight a report. But I think that's one important thing to know, and maybe, or I hope this will help in order to get more insights and more cases.
So who of you owns cryptos already? Fractions of Bitcoin, Ethereum? No? I think everybody here, and if the cryptos are gone, they're gone. So Sviel, while that scam is happening, what are the red flags at your system, at your company like Crystal, are you looking for? Can you see this in real time and stop it?
If it was labeled as scam, yes. The problem is there is no centralized authority to label addresses or transactions related to scams, and I think that's the big industry problem. So the information right now is siloed. You have one tool that has one scam data, and has the other scam data, which is law enforcement data, and law enforcement, unfortunately, it's not the easiest one to share the information with private tools. Right? Because, of course, there is an investigation, and you can tamper with the investigation. So one of the things we did, we acquired Scam Alert earlier this year. It's a free-to-use tool, so any victim can report the address or a hack. The data is available to any tool provider. They can get the information for free. So what we do, we collect the data about the scam addresses from around the world, and we aggregate it, not only on-chain, but we also look into the DNS servers, the IP addresses, try to bundle it. Now you have information about a single scam, one person, but it's connected to other places around the world. And it would be easier for law enforcement to work on those cases. Because as you said, when it was Austrian case, it was much harder to put more resources, but when suddenly it became a Dutch case as well, you have two countries working together on this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And especially in the field of romance scams and recapturing, you need the manpower behind the investigations. So you don't investigate case by case. So you need a lot of cases in order to get more law enforcement authorities to the case involved. Because collaboration is the key for a successful investigation. Yeah.
So privacy versus protection. So crypto was designed to be the Wild West. You're building the sheriff's office, you want to make it clear. So we're coming to the big question. The original dream of Bitcoin was to be anonymous, censorship-resistant money. And now we are putting a middle finger on the system. So Carl Ignayo and we at Crystal Intelligence and Raphael, in your entire job, this all is built on destroying that anonymity. So my question is now, are you the heroes of this story, or did you kill the very soul of crypto?
Depends on whom you ask, right? Now the point is, we are for sure not the ones who are going to be loved by everybody. Nevertheless, I believe there need to be clear standards. We see all the regulations coming up. There need to be standards, regulations, and also monitoring tools, and also that survey itself. Because you need to build this fundament, otherwise it's Wild West and everybody can do everything. And but also maybe putting that, we don't store any personal information, so we just categorize that. So therefore, so we call it pseudonymity and not the other way around. So we don't have all the data, and therefore, still, to be quite honest, people would hate us for that, what we're doing. But my strong belief is that there need to be a fundament, otherwise it's not able to build a mass adoption based on that one.
It was never anonymous in the first place. Pseudo-anonymous. I have a few cases from the one of the ransomware cases we helped to catch. They were asking, they were already tested me. And they were like, how do you catch us? They were like, use Bitcoin, it's anonymous. And I was like, no, that's not sure. It was never anonymous. So it was never built to be anonymous. It's censorship proof, yes. But still can use it very well. But never anonymous.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bitcoin and other crypto ecosystems, they come with their pros and cons, and we just take the foundations, or from example, the transparency, and we try to make the most of it. And it's pseudonymous, like you said, not anonymous. That's important to keep in mind.
So, Carl, taking your service, who are your main clients? Are these private people, companies, public?
So we are quite restricted with our clients, so we are mainly based for law enforcement, all kind of ministries, also financial market supervisions, so all these regulatory bodies, but we are also looking towards exchanges. But since we are working quite closely with real world data as well, we are here restricted to not sharing it to the public. Because we also got here the information, we try to build something which cannot be copy-pasted quite easily by the fraudster itself. So the law enforcement also tries to get or be one step ahead, and therefore we're not sharing it with each and everyone. It's a simple idea, I guess.
I think there is a limitation. You don't want access to it can easily reverse engineer. So if I know the risk settings that a specific change uses a specific software, they have the specific risk settings, I can reverse engineer my transactions through most of them in the network.
Do your clients ever push back? Do they say your software is too much intrusion into the privacy?
Not really. Never heard. I mean, never heard the feedback of that. Most of our customers are either government agencies, crypto-native businesses. So they don't like crypto-native businesses don't like regulation, but they want to be kind. So either play by the rules or yield.
How do you agree?
100%. I mean, also our software has been developed back then with a lot of data protection offices. So totally agree. We don't store any PII. So therefore, the only thing which we're having is the cryptocurrency address, and based on that one, we are categorized. So we haven't had this kind of an issue so far.
So staying with that, quick poll again. Just for fun, who thinks it is more important to have privacy or to catch the thieves, the bad guys? So he's for 100% financial privacy. And who is...
Sorry, but once again, what's privacy in there? I mean, everything needs to be stored. If you have a decentralized system, then it needs to be stored somewhere. So you're gonna see, starting from the first transaction, you're gonna see all the transactions. Is that privacy already enough, or is that not privacy? Because everything what we are doing is based on that one. We rely on all our software, on all our features which we're having. We're just putting like tags. We saw this at the terrorism financing. We saw this at weapon deals. We're just putting tags on the addresses. So the point is, what is privacy?
That's the perfect question now. So, what do you think is privacy? Is it privacy to have a wallet without a name? No? Is this not privacy?
No, it's not. Because the reason why cryptocurrency is that we open source. And it's not privacy. No, it's not, because the reason why Bitcoin in the first place does exist is open source, no privacy. Just because there is no name, but you have all your moves, they just have to put a name on it.
And yeah, just to get rid of the intermediary. So that was also a point, as at least my understanding, so that that the mass can decide on whether a transaction should go through or not. So yeah, but open to discuss that one.
So is this privacy?
Privacy means something like the person, what do you think about? For me, privacy, most likely not for anyone knowing my address or how much money I have. For me, that would be privacy issue. But again, it's just for a different person, this might be different things.
Oh, I originally just asked if it was knowing or not knowing the amount on the wallet. Is the privacy?
For me, yes.
Yes, so you use, say, a mixer or something to make it more difficult to trace amounts between wallet mentions if you're starting a cash wallet.
Well, I mean, you can do light techniques to evade detection or being clustered as addresses. Use disposable wallets.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm the person who would say, I'd rather have a regulation and put my crypto assets into a bank so they are protected by insurance and I can get the mortgage out of it.
And then where do you see yourself in terms of, I would say, the vision of your assets not being able to be frozen by any single government agency and being able to take any amount of funds with you wherever you travel? For example, if you were to take cash, usually 10,000 limit or license you declare it.
And you don't need to declare crypto, but you can use your own self-custody addresses. Don't store your funds at the exchange. And then nobody can freeze your asset as long as it's not a USDT or a USDC or any asset issued as a non-native to the chain.
So once, I need a second here. So you don't have any concern about, or once you guys identify a wallet that would say have funds that are involved in illicit activities, they're flagged as fraud, flagged as funds that shouldn't be accepted by those that are monitoring prey and compliance and KYC. But there's nothing stopping the movement of those funds on DeFi.
It's still decentralized, and we don't have any control over what the exchange will do. So we give this information to exchange, and exchange makes a decision whether they want to accept those funds. So it's the same as asking 1% of sanctioned funds. Is it a lot, or is it okay?
And then what prevents innocent bystanders from being caught in dirty money?
You can be a bystander until you got a compliance question. I've been there myself with a case, recording pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentations. Yeah, I'm with you. What privacy means is, I think, for every person different. I tend to have a very agnostic view, which I think a lot of people in crypto do have, and native crypto people. So why not have, so any player can do whatever he wants with the rules he finds in front of them. And if Naya does this and this entity does that, I think this is very crypto native at the end of the day. Every market participant is interested in their own benefits. Every entity going for some math activities is doing the very same. So why shouldn't there be any entities collecting data, just as every other entity that is interested in crypto does anyways, right? But this is about privacy. Regulation is something different.
I mean, if you're concerned of companies like Traceability attributing the data, there are more concerning things like ad intelligence and putting your address with the geographical location and IP addresses where you transacted. Like, I've seen it myself, and I was like, wow. I used this device with this address very rarely on a separate device, but still it was connected to my Web2 identity. And that's, for me, more concerning than having a label on the deposit address that is the most you did money or any other.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Quick question. Did it happen in your activity to, once you do the attribution and you realize that the funds are in USDT or USDC, to have a reverse of the transactions, or how does it work from a practical perspective? That's the first question. And the second one, are there any other stakeholders that are very important in your activity? And I'm specifically thinking about lawyers. Do they help you, or like when they come with a client, or lawyers of the government, or they are more discussing about privacy and this type of seizure sort of fundamental right, ownership and stuff?
So regarding your first question,